let's try again. What the hell was that about? Alright. I didn't have it on mute, so I don't know. It seems to do that sometimes for some reason. I don't know. We're back, so hello. How you doing, Andrea? How you doing, XXX Tentacion? I don't know why it's doing that, but don't know if that's ever happened to you, where it starts off on mute even though it's not showing that it's on mute. I did not mute it. Something's up with YouTube, I think. I don't know. But anyway. Hope you're all doing well today. So there's this whole like thing of, where you get boomers, kind of like some boomers will like complain about, younger people being entitled and all that. But they won't take any responsibility for why that is. Oh, you're packaging your vinyl dehydrated meal for the hike. Oh, cool. Alright. That's good then. So, yeah, so this whole like thing of, blaming people for the problems you created, because a lot of these people were brought up by boomers, or they brought people up who then brought people up. So you could say that they're partly to blame for what's going on, and even some Gen X people who would like complain about, sort of like, oh, these young people are entitled. Well, can you really blame them? It's like, there's like, basically, this whole thing of like, if you're in America, you got the American dream and all that. And even this country is probably, there's this idea that, if you work hard, then you get like, you get the reward for that. But with all that, like when it comes to, working your way up the career ladder and all that, and it's not guaranteed anymore. And it hasn't been for quite a while. Hello, Chef Sumik. Hello, Suzrun. How you doing? So with this baby boom generation and all that, it's like, and even some Gen X people who are just kind of out of touch, because they were living in times where the economy was thriving. Hello, Becky Wilson. You could get a house for like next to nothing, but oftentimes it's these older people who are actually hoarding up these properties, right? So how the fuck can you expect, young people to get on the, property ladder when they're literally hoarding up these properties? Like, what do they expect? And then these houses that they're probably just going to go for their own, like the whole like nepotism kind of thing, right? It's just going to be like, stay within their family, right? For the most part. Hello, Franca, how you doing? I hope you're well. So, it's just, like, when they pass on, then it's going to go down to their children. But most of the younger people are still going to be, screwed over, struggling to buy a house. You look back in, like, the 1980s, for example, how cheap it was to buy a house, even in the 90s, compared to what it is now. So, what do they expect? They expect that people are just going to want to work harder and harder so that they can just have a chance of buying a house or something. Some people have just given up on the idea of buying a house. Now, I don't want to be negative and all that, and I do think that you can be prosperous if you really want to, but it's just this whole kind of hello, Sharon. Well, like this idea of buy a house, but the thing with buying a house is there's equity when you buy a house. Once you bolt it, then you no longer have rent to pay and you have value. So let's say you get older and then you want to downsize and whatever, you can release some equity from that house. Whereas if you're constantly renting, then you're basically just always kind of in debt to like a landlord for your whole life. It's basically just dead money. So it's not that, I mean, this whole thing of, oh, well, we're all going to die anyway, but it's like, well, you would want to at least have a comfortable retirement and stuff like that and be able to, you know, have your, you know, established and whatever, and at least, you know, own your own property at that point, you would hope. I mean, you can argue about that, but, you know, it's just that properties were a lot cheaper. So it was a lot cheaper to actually buy a house. So it was actually a lot more viable, is what I'm saying. And yeah, in today's economy, it's not good to buy a house, probably, but like, if you think back in the 80s, like, the average home was about 40,000 or so in the UK, if that. In fact, some houses, in fact, I remember like my grandparents said that they bought a house back in 1980 for £11,000. Yeah, 11 grand. So then it would be worth, I think when it got sold, it was worth 90,000. But anyway, yeah. What's that? Yeah, like you know, if you actually own a house, you're lucky, I would say. And yeah, there's property taxes in some case, but I'd still say in the long run it's better than renting. I worked it out and all that, and but a little wrestling. I think this is just this just sounds like the whole you'll own nothing and be happy thing, where like, you know, this is what they're wanting people to think, that, oh, well, just be a happy renter and all this kind of crap. But shouldn't you actually own the place that you live, I would say? I think that we should be able to own the very place that we actually call home and not have to be in debt to some fucking landlord. I mean, come on, guys. I think everyone should at least be able to own, even if it's just a small home, they should at least be able to own that. But that's just my opinion anyway. But it's all by design, I think. It's all by design to keep keep everybody stuck in this system that they don't really necessarily want to be. They just, you know, because they're constantly paying off a house that they're hardly even in a lot of cases, right? Even at home, because they're, you know, in a lot of cases, people are spending all day at work, whatever. A lot of people are, you know, going overtime. So they come home and it's literally just a place to fucking rest. You know? So there's people like going, like, kind of, you know, like off grid or whatever, like going van life, because they're like, fuck it, you know? Like, fuck the whole system. Hello, David, how you doing? Now, I mean, it's a sign of the times, isn't it, that, I mean, it wouldn't be too bad if you've got a few people in a household or something. But most people are like, you know, probably a lot of people are living alone now. But if you could get like a few people in a household, then whether it be rent or a mortgage would be very, very cheap. But a lot of people don't really want that. They don't want to live with family for some reason. Probably because they're being like shamed into being all like, oh, you're a loser if you stay living at home or something, right? Even though you're probably better off financially if you do that. Hello, Nariko94. Why would you want to leave your family home until you become like rich or something, you know? Like, it doesn't make sense to me, right? You would have to work harder for less, you know, disposable income. You know what I mean? Because but the whole thing of living alone is just eating into your disposable income, meaning you have less money to invest, or to save to do what you want. Let's say someone's able to save a few £100 a month extra because they chose to stay living at home, whatever. That could really sort of ramp up over time with compound interest. So, but it's just that we're all just there's this kind of shame on living at home with parents, being told that if you do that then you failed. Who would want to be with you if you live at home? Well, and all this kind of stuff. There's this whole pressure. Who would want to be friends with you if you're just going to stay at home? Hello, Creative. How you doing? Fruit Squad. How you doing? I hope you're well today. And I just don't agree with it. I think it's a very it's almost like people are being conditioned to do that. To shame. I don't know where it's come from. Where does the whole thing of shaming people for staying at home come from? Where does that come from? Does anyone know where that's come from? Where's the whole thing of, if you live at home with parents in your 20s, 30s or whatever, then you're a failure. Where does that come from? Does anyone know? Is it just from society or is there something deeper going on? Like, is this some kind of social engineering going on by some higher-ups? Because this is the thing, right? Is that the powers that be, if you want to call them, the elites, whatever, right? These people can engineer society to, for example, look back in 2020, how they engineered society based on media, brainwashing, and whatever, right? Not too bad, thank you, Mohammed. How you doing? So, is this something that's been engineered into society, this idea of having to leave your family home? It just sounds like more of a way of just destroying that family unit, and because if the family is actually close together, actually able to pool resources and support each other, but we've pretty much lost that. It's just sick, really, to what they've done. What they've convinced everyone that, being quote unquote independent is the answer. But in a way that we all depend on each other in some way, so we can never be truly independent. And it's this, people like the feeling of, I live on my own, so therefore I'm independent. But it's like, you're never going to be truly independent. You're always depending on something. So I don't know why people feel so much of a need to leave their family home so early. Like, how is that going to benefit you? Well, that's the thing, it can be good to take care, and you have that sort of like symbiotic relationship there. You can take care, maybe you can do a few things like run errands or whatever, and you can just have some, they might even pay fully for you to stay there, and you might even get some food paid for, who knows. But if you're providing some kind of value, then, then you get value in return for that. But yeah, it's just crazy to me that people think that it's bad to stay at home. Bubbles. Now, in some cases, it could be a bit complicated if you don't get on with your family and stuff like that, and that's unfortunate. But I think that if you can get on with your family, and I don't see any reason to need to move out, unless you have to for whatever job that, let's say you're moving a far away, or you found somebody and you're moving a long way away. But if you can stay with your family and you can, you just kind of all look after each other, you all support each other, but we've lost that in society. And I think it's quite sad. Are you going to your new house? Oh yeah. Okay. Cool. People think of, or say somebody moves back in with parents, that that's some kind of failure. It's not. What is wrong with that? Can anybody explain to me? Hello, Mythicalism, how you doing today? I hope you're well. Smash that like button, everyone. Can anybody explain to me, what is wrong with, staying with your parents. I mean, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. If anything, it can give you some freedom in some way. And, in some cases, you could use that as an opportunity to actually do the things you want to do. Maybe you could start a business, like if you're still living it with family, then you've got that opportunity there. I think it's a good time to take that opportunity to maybe you want to start your own channel, maybe you want to start some e-commerce or whatever it might be, you've got more opportunity to do that. But if someone's actually spending all day at work, then their bandwidth and their time is going to be short. It's going to be a lot harder to actually, start anything like that. That's the thing, right? Yeah, and today's, hello Lily, today's environment, exactly. Why would anybody shame someone for wanting to do that? And yeah, I think, like I said, buying a house, it can be a good achievement but in today's environment, it might be better to try and just pool resources together, until you've got to a level where, maybe you can find somebody, and you end up, moving with them, perhaps. Because I don't think it's necessarily something that you should do forever. It all comes down to everybody's individual sort of wants and needs and all that. But hello, Cyrus. How you doing? Lisa, how you doing? Hope you're well. Hats got edits. What's that? Thank you for the likes, everybody. Smash that like button, everyone. That would be really appreciated. So, yeah, just do what you want to do. Don't give a damn what anybody, tells you that you should or shouldn't be doing. Oh, you should get the latest iPhone or whatever. It's like if someone's trying to... If you feel pressured into doing whatever society wants you to, then those are people that you probably shouldn't have in your life, Yeah. I think it would be wise, either, to save more money, but let's say you still continue to do the job and just kind of, or you would use it as an opportunity to start a business. Maybe, I don't know, I'm not a financial advisor or anything, but it's just about being smart. If anything, I would say that the person who's just ends up staying stuck in the system is actually the real loser. The person who is smart, who actually stays with the parents as long as they need to, they build up a business, they end up out-earning the person who who called them a loser. That's the ironic thing, right? Is that, that they will be shamed and whatever, but eventually they end up actually blowing that person out the water. So, so to speak, but yeah. What about Larry? Well, I did say that, you don't have to live with your parents your whole life, but what is wrong with that anyway? I know you're probably just trying to get a reaction anyway, so... Hello, Finny boy, how's it going? Hope you're well today. Thank you for the 14 likes, everyone. Smash that like button, everybody. That would be great. But, there's no need to shame somebody who wants to live differently, But I don't even live with my parents, but, I'm just saying that I don't think there's anything wrong with doing that. Why is this, 25th birthday some arbitrary number you have to leave, I mean, that's just kind of ridiculous, isn't it, really, to think that someone has to move out. Unless you're a burden on your parents but if you can actually provide some value and that if they're actually happy to do that, why feel the need to move out? Taffy, hello, how you doing? Oh god, here we go. The silly comments. Oh goodness. But so if they're happy to have you there, You know, and you might say, well, what if the parents want to downsize? Well, yeah, let them downsize, and you could always still live with somebody, even if they end up downsizing and getting a small place. If there's always a way to make it work, I would say. When I was a young man, still living at home, I took a job where I'd drive a street sweeper and clean up commercial properties in the middle of the night in Philadelphia. Oh, really? Why middle of the night? Oh, yeah, so that's good then. But yeah, depending on where you live, you could just do some like seasonal work, like you could just trim somebody's hedges or something, you know, mow someone's lawn, and that can probably be enough to kind of tide you over. I mean, that's, yeah. The weather is improving daily. We had some hot weather, and it's then kind of cooled a bit, and so I think it's a bit warmer today, but yeah, it's been quite hot up in this room now because I'm on the top floor, so it's like I'm on the third floor, so it's like there's 2 floors beneath me. So the heat from below is coming up, so because the heat rises. Clean the parking lots in the middle of the night because the parking lots are empty at the time. Well, yeah, of course. Hi, Naveen, how you doing? I think it's probably time to invest in a card reader. Yeah, there is that, isn't there? But I did try and get a card reader, but that one unfortunately doesn't really do what I want it to do. And I feel a bit kind of, yeah, where is it? I'll see if I can find it, but it's like it's not very useful, to be honest. Is it that? Hang on, where is it? I can't find it now. It's in there somewhere though. There it is. So I've got this thing, as you can see, but it's just, it doesn't really do much, because like, I'd have to have it to where it can be, where people can just tap and go or something, but to be honest, I don't really like spending all it's going to be, you know, actually help, but yeah. But you're right, though, it's just, so I was talking with some busker a while ago, and they said that they make something like an extra 15 quid a day from like the contactless payments, whatever you call it, where they just, you know, they just tap and go or something. Okay, Fred, well, if you don't think I have a personality, then bye-bye. Why do you keep coming in here, then? Why do people keep coming in here if they're just gonna be like that, you know? Yeah, exactly, just leave then. How you doing, Mr. Krabs? Hope you're well today. Smash that like button, everyone. But unfortunately, yeah, I have to probably get like a proper reader. I don't know, really. I need to look more into that, but it could be a lot. Then I'd probably be more likely to do it. Because let's say I make, I don't know, like, because I might only say make like 30 quid a day from like, you know, donations, but then if I have some like card reader, then, you know, that might boost up to say 45 quid or something, right? I mean, what's that? I'm gonna go through it, what you mean, what you're saying. Anyway, thanks for the likes, everyone. Nice one. Keep smashing that like button. We've got 20 likes on the live already, so let's keep it going up. Let's see if we can get 100 likes on the live today, or if not more. But yeah, I do need to get that sorted out, but I'll have to have a look online if there's a card reader that I can get, like an actual proper one that you can do, where they can just do like a sort of pay £2 or whatever set amount, and they can just tap it. Something like that. So I do need to look into that, really. But yeah, is everybody alright? Maybe like a terminal would be more of a yeah, good investment, really, because it's just, you got to think of it, it's like a short-term investment for like a long-term sort of gain. Do you mean text to speech? What are you saying? Anyway. Hope you're all well today. Thank you for the 21 likes. You do what? Sorry, Mr. Wilson. Anyway, who's still in here then? Say hello if you're still watching. Hello, Marlon. How's it going? Are you talking about nostalgia? what you're saying. I don't know what you guys are on about, so. What do you think about the carnivore diet fad? I think it's ridiculous, to be honest, but, I mean, there might be the odd person that benefits, but I've heard about people with, like, you know, autoimmune disease or something, but I think for most people, like, it doesn't make sense. I think the body actually a lot of people thrive on carbs as, like, a primary fuel source. Like, it fuels your muscles and stuff, helps you to be able to kind of get an extra bit of a burst of energy when you're lifting weights, for example. I think that because otherwise your body would have to use a less efficient mechanism of gluconeogenesis, which would be to break down amino acids into carbohydrates, which is a very expensive process. So it'd just be a lot less efficient. Anyway. Hello, Mike. Good to see you. How you doing? Hello, Gachast 4RXX. How you doing? Okay. Well, that's good then. Hello, Chrissy Benz. How you doing today? No, sorry. What's that? I don't know what that is. Anyway. Oh, sorry, I don't need to read your name. I'm just like, yeah. Read everybody's names out, basically. That's what I do. Anyway. Is everyone okay? Smash that like button, everyone. Yeah, what's up, people? Hello, Kilrix Ross. Oh, here we go. No, I'm not. Just some idiots trying to just be stupid. No, I'm not. I just got rid of that person. They're just being stupid. Thanks for the 23 likes. Smash that like button, everybody. So just talking about like the busking and stuff. So I could probably do with some cashless option, like a proper one. I do have like a PayPal option, but nobody hardly uses that. Probably the same guy, yeah. Just a bunch of idiots. Right. Anyway, so yeah, I just probably need to get that sorted out. In fact, I could look into it now and see, about like a busking one. And how's my day? It's okay, thanks. How's your day? Let me have a look. Cashless payment for buskers. Let's have a look at this and see what it says. There's one called Zettel. Well, I do have Square, but that's, like I said, it was a card reader, but it doesn't really, it's just not practical because the one that I've got, right, it uses the app on my phone. So, like, I would have to manually type in whatever amount that they want. It could just get quite impractical, really. I gotta go, okay, take care. Anyway. Is everybody okay? Welcome to the live. Smash that like button, everybody. So I don't know what I'm going to do, really. I mean, I have this thing on my phone, but I've never really used it. And it would just be a bit unpractical because you have to, like, So unless I had someone to help me out with all that stuff while I'm doing it, potentially, I don't know if like somebody could, you know, hold the phone and just kind of help out with, because they would have to like, you know, like type in the amount that they want to donate or something. I mean, because you go into the app and then you type in the amount. Okay, thank you. It's Els. All right. Oh, really? Okay, that's yeah. Yeah, that's unfortunate, isn't it? What's QOPD? I show speed. Welcome back. Thank you for the 27 likes, everyone. But I do need to have some like other way of, because otherwise it's kind of like throttling my earnings by not having an alternative method of paying. So maybe if I did some like magic tricks, say for example, and then at the end of the performance, I would just kind of use a phone, be like, hey, you want to just, you know, send it that way? They can just tap apparently you just tap the back of the phone, and that will confirm the payment. It's just some people can be a bit funny about sending cashless payments, I guess. Hello, Aki Boy TV, especially like older people. But then again, older people are probably more likely to carry cash. So I think a lot of the younger people are a bit more kind of savvy to this kind of stuff, and you can just kind of, they might be a bit more reassured that it's actually legit or something. But yeah, that's just something that yeah, I might need to try. Hello Jane, how you doing? I hope you're well today. Thanks for the 27 likes, everybody. Let's get to 30 likes real quick. Yeah, well, anyway, welcome in everybody. But yeah, it's a shame that people can't just carry cash like they did, but it is what it is. That's just the way things are going. Vape shop. I've seen all that shit, right, with all the, a lot of that's friggin' immigrants, isn't it, you know? Friggin' vape shops everywhere. I've seen some videos on that, you know? Phone repair shops, Turkish barbers, all that kind of stuff, right? So, yeah, they're not exactly thriving apparently. They're just, it just seems to be a front for things like money laundering and also smuggling and shit like that, you know? So that seems to be what's going on with all that. Of course, there's real people, and unfortunately, the real people are being throttled by all that. So I watched a video on it. Hello, Annie, how you doing? And it's just kind of infuriating that no one's doing anything about it. You know, they just kind of seems to be all complicit. The government's absolute joke. They're not doing anything about it. They don't give a fuck. You know, and there's literally like, you know, there's legitimate barbers and, you know, these vet shops, whatever, that are being destroyed by all this shit. Hello, Ronaldo. Oh yeah, supplement shop. I mean, I don't know about, yeah, UK, I've seen a few of them, but then you're competing, and it's easier said than done, right? You would have to, first of all, you know, buy a bunch of, what's the word, inventory, is that the right word? You have to buy all the stuff in. Then you have to also pay to have it all set up so it's all ready to go. Pay for rent. So there's a lot of upfront costs that you have to pay before you even get started. So yeah, so unless you know for certain it's gonna work, then yeah, it's a big massive risk. So there's a risk to everything, but you have to be very a very calculated risks with these things, really. But yeah, the vape shops are, you know, they're everywhere, but there's not enough demand. So you think, well, what the hell's going on here then? Clearly something else is going on. because there's also been this thing about like underage people getting their hands on vapes. You know, where they found that there were what were underage people doing in these shops. You know, so there's a lot of I think there's a lot of illegal stuff going on, and the way that a lot of them were being very evasive and didn't want to communicate with the journalist. Told you everything, and it seemed like they're in this big network of them, which is really suspicious, and like there's something else going on that's a lot more dark. My local bike shop closed last year. I'm still friends with the guy who owned it. He lost thousands of dollars from that business and is considering declaring bankruptcy. Yeah, that's sad, that, isn't it? You know, it's the way a lot of businesses just fail, but some might say, oh, it's just survival of the fittest and all that, but you know, it's just, but I do think that this is a manufactured thing where they don't want thriving businesses, at least small businesses anyway. The only businesses that this system wants to thrive is the big ones, corporate businesses. So all these small independent ones, they're screwed over with, I'm hearing stuff about this government are going to start, you know, making it harder for small businesses, like more taxes, more things like that. You know, they'll just squeeze every last penny out of you. And anyway, what are you saying, right? Anyway, thanks for the 29 likes. Smash that like button, everyone. Sethala B, how you doing? Hope you're well today. But back in the old time economy, then like it was small businesses everywhere. There wasn't even a lot of corporations, but some might call it late stage capitalism. I'm not saying that I'm a communist or even a socialist or anything, but there's clearly issues going on with the way that this economy is being run. That surely we should be able to agree on that. Like I was saying, the fact that people are struggling to own homes anymore, right? Like by the age of, say, 25, 30 years old, I think everyone should own a home, right? Like if someone's going to say that you should be out of your parents' home by 25, you should have a home that you own at that point. And not with some massive mortgage either. You should be able to. In fact, they were saying now, with a few years of work, you could probably have actually bought a house with cash by late 20s, maybe something like that, right? Because you save up for a few years, then have your own home that you've already paid off. So, if you expect people to move out, then make the conditions better so that they can actually be prosperous when they actually do move out. Make it so where they actually have a home that they actually own. Otherwise, they have no reason to actually want to leave. Yeah, exactly. If you're a single person, and more people are single now, if you're a couple, then it's a bit easier, or if you've got friends or whatever, and you can move in with each other. But why would you expect someone to just move out and let's face it, dating isn't easy now either. Dating was so much easier back in my day. A decent house, you would just end up with some shitty fucking place in Durham, that county Durham, up in northeast. So talking about this, it's actually possible to get a very cheap house, but look at the area that it's going to be, look at the state of the place it's going to be, So, but this should not have to, it should not have to be that way. But it's that way by design. So why would anyone want to work all hours in this system when they get fuck all for it? Oh yeah, you've got all that shit, If you've got if it's a leasehold property, you've got fucking ground rent to pay. That's Yeah, that's the thing, right? They've got all these hidden costs and stuff. In some places, you've got like property tax. You've got all these fees, all this red tape as well. Like oftentimes, like even things like even the whole process of buying a house, you've got like fees on top of the actual price of the house. Like you've got fees like what's it called? Like if your house is over a certain amount of money, it's almost like a tax on the property value or something. So you're getting taxed twice, basically, is what's happening. Your money's being taxed, and then you're getting this, tax on the property value if it's over a certain amount of money. And in certain places, it's hard to not even get a house. It's hard to even get a house below a certain price. Yeah. Oh, Camden, New Jersey. Oh, really? Yeah, not heard that one, but yeah. Why is that then? Well, some say that crime is higher in more impoverished areas. So if you want to tackle crime, then part of that could be down to making the area more thriving. But you look at places like, Baltimore, or you look at places like Chicago, Detroit, and they're going about, oh, it's all so run down and blah blah blah. But there's also like lots of crime in these places, and you could say part of that reason is, people will do more crimes. There'll be a lot more shopliftings and things like that if you do not have a thriving economy. Not too bad, thank you. How you doing? Trolling an anti-migrant march stream for the last hour. They just got themselves arrested. Absolute until victory. Oh, really? So you're for migration then, are you? Okay. I mean, like, as in there's like this whole illegal immigration thing going on, and are you for that or something, or what's going on? I'm just wondering, like, where you stand on all that, because as I can tell, there's some issues with all this illegal immigration going on. So I don't know why you would. I don't know, really. I'm against angry people achieving nothing and being racist and all that. Well, I suppose if someone really just is very bigoted and not, like if they're totally against all forms of migration, and yeah. I think it's just one of these things where it's a nuanced discussion. Oh, you have tonsillitis. Oh no, I hope that gets better soon. But yeah, I guess a lot of protests do not achieve anything anyway. Even like, for example, even things like look at the lockdown protests. Did that really achieve anything? To be fair, I mean, it's just a bunch of people just trying to feel like they're doing something good, I guess. Hang on a second. Dude was literally going onto my channel and saying he's not far away from me, etc. Well, yeah, that's a bit kind of weird, isn't it? And that doesn't sound like somebody who's really got the best intentions, does it? Studies indicate white people have the least in-group preference of any demographic. In other words, the most racist groups aren't white. I do notice that a lot. I remember, like, when I was living in Blackburn, and there was a lot of like Asians that they tend to stick together in their own groups. But you could say that a lot, all races tend to have that a bit. But yeah, I do notice that they didn't seem to really want to integrate that much. So yeah, it's anyway. I mean, we had some neighbours that were okay. Like, well, one side were better than the other, to be fair. Like, and they seemed to be a bit more, sort of like, what's the word? Yeah, like they just kind of, like my grandma used to talk to one of them. They seemed fairly friendly and. Hello, Zelina. How you doing? I hope you're well. And they weren't like sort of bad people, I don't think. But to say that though, we don't really know because it could have been some ploy to try and get the house because they ended up getting the house when she passed away. So this is me being cynical now. What if they were trying to just do that all along to try and manipulate? Because they were like, oh, if we are more friendly, then we're more likely to get the house or something. And because they probably saw that she was a bit kind of, that eventually they'll like play the long game so that they'd, I mean, that's what some people might do is they play the long game, try to build somebody's trust, and then so that way they're hoping that it will be left in their will to basically get the house or something. The school I went to was 60 to 70% black and was one of the few white kids. I was constantly outcasted. The media put such a spin on things. Yeah, it was about 70 odd percent. I think when I was in school, something like that. It was actually all right, to be fair. But I guess it was one of those that like each group kind of stuck to themselves for the most part. But yeah, I don't know if like Lex is still there, but I don't really agree with this whole straw man thing where they're trying to say that you shouldn't buy a curry because you don't like foreigners or something like that. It's like, well, who are they actually talking to here, right? Yeah, there might be a certain minority of people who are genuinely racist, but I think that there's this whole thing of, because they were saying, if you support Farage or whatever, or you shouldn't be, or if you're going to vote for us, then don't. It's like, well, not everybody because some people are just sick of Labour, they're sick of, the current thing, even they're sick of the Tories as well, just all these, this two-party illusion that we have, and they want to change. Does that mean that they're racist? Not necessarily. So then you've got like people like, Stormer and whatever, and Labour sort of like, they won't take any responsibility because, they would have to admit that things need to change and they don't want to do that. So instead of taking responsibility, they'll just kind of make somebody who has kind of switched sides or whatever because of their own actions as to be like racist and whatever and bigots. Safety aspect for me, yeah, there's that whole thing of like if you actually care about, you've got, let's say you're an older person and you care about your children who, let's say the young women and they're going out and you don't know what kind of people that might be knocking around. So, unvetted migrants. That doesn't mean to say that all migrants are bad. There's a nuance to everything. Like I said, it's just, it almost feels like certain people might be put into these movements to strawman and to be an example, make an example out of the group, be like, oh, look, they're all racists. Put a bunch of agent provocateurs in, Hello, friend and buddy. That's what I think might be happening at some of these protests. They throw a few people in there to make it look like it's a lot more bad than what it is. I think some would say that that's what happened with the whole Jan 6 thing in the whole Capitol thing in America, that they insert people in who just anyway. That's it's just I cannot put anything past these people. I couldn't put anything past these people to just use agents. People who act like they're part of a certain movement, but really they're all. It's like some people say that happened with the hippie movement as well, when there were certain people who were questionable who just kind of end up ruining it, or was that just a natural thing that happened? But some suggest that there was some kind of CIA involvement, that once the movement got big, they had to kind of insert certain people in to derail it, to subvert it. That's what it would seem like anyway, that certain people are just inserted. Some might even say like the BLM protests, and but I don't necessarily agree with the whole thing of BLM, the whole in the sense of Black Lives Matter, because yes, Black lives do matter, but also all lives matter. That by doing that, all you do is basically only focusing on one form of injustice is actually, sort of like discriminating against everybody else. Shouldn't we be looking at the bigger picture of things and actually the discrimination as a whole? It's more of a class issue than it is a race issue, but that's what they do, is they have you focus on the race thing, so that way you do not question the system as a whole. Buffalo Chicken, how you doing? Neptune, Solar Ball, how you doing? So it's all a bunch of distraction tactics, I think. Hello, Boiling Frog, how you doing? I hope you're well. So what do you think's going on? Because Ultimate Lex was saying something about somebody who they were saying that they were trolling somebody's in one of these protests or something. Was it the whole Tommy Robinson protest or something? I don't know, but basically it was one of those kinds of protests anyway, the anti-immigration protest or whatever, and then that person apparently started getting quite weird and saying that they live near that person and all that, and so what's going on with that then? Could that be some, I don't know, do you think that there can be agent provocateurs in some of these movements? What do you think's going on? Yeah, the Vietnam War thing, I remember, there was that whole promiscuity and drug use. Yeah, why did that have to then be added into that? It was almost like it was, even the whole suffragettes movement, some argue that was designed to, basically to subvert the family unit by creating, higher taxes for everybody and making it to where both would have to work full time, instead of having, say, like, kind of one breadwinner and then actually having, like a stay-at-home mum. Well, not saying that everyone should be a stay-at-home mum, but it's at the point where it's hardly even viable at this point, really. Unless you were to just kind of stay with your parents. Again, this is kind of, this could even be an argument for staying with your parents even once you've, kind of, even if you have a family, that you would just keep the family in the same home, potentially. Hello, Random Rants, how you doing? Yeah, the attack on the average person, this is the thing, it's all about, yes, attack the small businesses, attack the, working class people and all that, because, they've already destroyed the middle class, right? So that's what they've done with all these regulations and what have you with the basically stunting upward mobility, and now they're coming for the working class, basically. They're encouraging one-parent families. What do you mean? You're talking about like co-parenting or something? Because I've been seeing a lot about that actually, about co-parenting, where like you've got one parent bringing up a child, and the other parent isn't even living with them because they've split up. You've got, like I said, promiscuity. You've got, this destruction of the family unit. Oh, benefits. Oh yeah, but it's like it's all just, I don't know. But why would they encourage people to claim more benefits? That wouldn't make sense, right? If they're, taking money out of the system, I don't know. If anything, they would want people to be working more, and so that they're actually, I would have thought, maybe I'm missing something there, but anyway, hello Joshua Bennett, how you doing? Oh yeah, Kenny. I think it points to God. What's about that? Destabilize the West. I mean, we've talked about that before, but yeah. But you've got like you see a lot of young men now who are frustrated because they can't get a woman, but yeah, some of that's their own fault, and I've talked about that before, but there is things going on though. There are certain circumstances that are making it harder. Like even things like just less what they call like third places or whatever they call third spaces. So your first and second spaces would be like your work or whatever, like, right? I'm trying to think of other ones. I think second ones would be like, is it things like shops and stuff? I'm not too sure, but there's third places that, if I remember, are things like bars and that, social bars, things like that, where people would go, like clubs. But yeah, you might say, well, you can still do that, but even in a lot of these places, there just doesn't seem to. They're not really encouraged to really kind of mingle with new people, and there just seems to be I don't know, something up with all that. Like a lot of people feel kind of, I don't know, they're just kind of left out, right? Like if you were to try and go into some kind of venue, you're going to have a hard time trying to mingle and get to know people because they already know others there. So why would they want to get to know you? Yeah, that is true, Boiling Frog, yes. That's just, it's not good all that, but there seems to be like a two-tier policing, don't there, We've got this like, where they're hard on certain so-called criminals, but yet lenient on others. Probably because of race or whatever, and they don't want to be like deemed as racist or whatever, and some say that that's the reason why things like grooming gangs have continued to oftentimes go without, kind of prosecution for long periods of time and stuff. Corinto, yes. Oh yeah, it's just bullshit, isn't it? Like, but you could argue that it's the system that has made them a criminal. This is what I was talking about earlier. Now, yeah, it's still not good to do crime, but we have to see the bigger picture, and that if we create a system that's a lot more thriving, and we actually try to help the people who are, in less fortunate positions, then maybe they'd be less likely to actually be criminals. But there's a lot to also be said for things like gang culture and things like gangster rap, and how that promoted a lot of violence and a lot of like a lot of crime. I think that has a lot to answer for, to be honest with you. Yeah. Yeah, it's not the best to have a bunch of criminals here, is it? Now, obviously, they're not all criminals. This is why we need a vetting process, but, you need to know who you're dealing with. That's why you can't just let any Tom, Dick, or Harry in. Otherwise, they're going to just, potentially be a threat. The Ukrainian girl on the train was the best example. Rest her heart. That guy was 16 times reoffender. Blimey. That should be like enough to like really sort of piss people off. If someone is a offender 16 times, then clearly there's something not right about the justice system and the legal system in general that is enabling this kind of shit. Yeah. If you're here illegally, then you should not be here. I don't care what kind of do-gooder you are and you think that is actually good or whatever, diversity is our strength and all that, and yeah, to a certain degree, but when you have convicted criminals still walking around the streets, that is where I draw the line. Hello Zuhaib, how you doing? Hope you're well. Can you be family friendly? Well, unfortunately this is a bit of a topic that is maybe not so family friendly. I do have it as set not for kids, so maybe this is just not the place for you if this isn't the sort of stuff that you want to listen to. So, drugs trafficked by government agencies create gangs too. Well, there is a lot of that sort of stuff apparently, and it's just this whole thing about, like I said, with the whole vape shops and all this kind of shit, and the fact that this is actually being enabled. There's nothing being done about it for now, and it takes some kind of journalist to go out and actually find it out, but we'll have to see if it really gets cracked down on soon. But there's just a lot of negligence because it's almost like they want it to happen for some reason. It's almost like they want to keep bringing more people in, and they're actually facilitating these people coming in on the small boats, so they then become part of their businesses, their network, Yeah, the banks are, But again, this is all enabled by the government. The government enables all this shit. Ultimately, if the government is enabling it, then they are complicit. They are just as responsible. Oh, Weston, how you doing, Weston? We live in Canada, I know. Oh yeah, I've heard Canada's got quite a homeless problem or something. I've heard mixed stuff about that, and some say it's overblown, but I have heard there's a lot of people sleeping rough in places like Toronto and stuff. So their whole kind of liberal government or whatever, it's not really, doesn't seem to have really helped a lot of that. But you could say, well, a lot of the homeless problem isn't exactly, it's not as in it could be partly their fault, whatever. But to me, it's a clear sign of a negligent government who just, there's something clearly wrong here, and that we have a bunch of these kind of people on the streets and stuff. Even obvious gender differences can't be mentioned. Oh yeah, there's this whole thing about you've got say some remember when that whole trans swimmer, what was she called, who won a medal, but wouldn't have won if they'd have competed as a man. Leah Thomas it was. But you can't. But yeah, they did actually crack down on it because it was ridiculous. But some of that community would have actually defended it and said that, oh well, you're just a bigot if you think that they shouldn't be able to compete in that. Well, I'd say the solution would be for them to have their own league, to have trans people have their own league if that's what they want, you know. So that way it doesn't end up causing any sort of unfairness in the other leagues, right? Let them have their own fucking league, you know. Transhuman agenda. Oh yeah, there's even people, you know, just I don't know. It's weird. Some of the weird stuff out there, like people identifying as a child and stuff like that. And okay, no. Why would the government import more people when there's already a homeless? Now you might say, well, it's their own fault that they're homeless or something. In some cases, a lot of like drunk people, and you know, that might be their own fault in a lot of cases, but there's clearly something going on, and yeah, I don't know what would be the solution to it all, but surely the government should have more knowledge and they can sort of come up with some good ideas and, you know, to crack down on it all. But yeah, all they want to do is crack down on, in this country, on things like so-called hate speech, but they've actually encouraged that. That's the thing, right? They've actually encouraged people getting so pissed off by the whole situation that, you know, that they just, I'm not saying that they should have done all that. I'm not saying that they should have said what they did, but the government is actually at least partly to blame for that. And again, instead of taking responsibility, they're actually criminalizing speaking out against it all and saying that, you know, certain things. People getting arrested for tweets that they put out, even private messages. Is this why they want to, like, you know, like spy on people and, you know, like this is, you know, this whole surveillance thing and increase in surveillance and all that, so they can just like spy on you 24/7, and if you say one thing that's just a bit out of line, even if it's just in an emotional rant, oh, that's criminal now. You're gonna have to walk on eggshells, everything that you say. Yeah, that's, I've heard it's really bad in certain parts of Canada where the cost of living is so high, so maybe that's why there's that problem over there. Maybe it's a bit different than this country. Because, like, why would they be sleeping in tents in the friggin', you know, -20 winter nights and stuff like that? Surely that isn't what they would want, right? Surely they would be happier to live somewhere nice and warm or something, but yeah, so, but a lot of this, I think, has to do with, like, I think, if I remember, people were talking about zoning laws and stuff like that, which just artificially increase the house prices and stuff. Like, so yeah, that's a real big issue in a lot of countries and stuff, and I think that may well be an issue here as well. And one of the reasons why houses are so expensive nowadays, because there's restrictions on what kind of houses can be built and things like that, and it creates a supply shortage. And when you've got supply shortages, you end up with increased costs. You've also got, like, how they could probably fill up a lot of the vacant homes and stuff if they really wanted to, but they won't do that. Like, surely if you've left a place vacant for so long, it should be repossessed or something, because if you're not acting as the owner of that property, I think that's just, I mean, there is this thing called adverse possession, but that can take at least 10 years, and it's a very, like, complicated process. You have to send a lot of stuff, but I think that if you've not lived in your home for, like, more than 2, 3, 4 years, whatever, then why should that be your home anymore? Somebody needs to live there, and it would help to free up homes that are otherwise just vacant most of the time, right? I think it's just a joke. Why should that home be vacant? You know, it should be on the long-term rental. Another thing with all this Airbnb, I think I talked about this yesterday. I don't agree with the whole kind of thing where people just renting out homes that should be on the long-term rental market as, you know, like holiday lets. That takes homes off the market, so I think that's part of the reason as well why prices go up in certain areas. Well, I've heard that there's a lot of refugees being put up in like HMOs, like where's a few of them in one room or something. Again, I don't know, is that affecting the prices as well? Because, you know, again, it's just creating more shortages. Like, unless there's more people to build homes and more people to... But yeah, it's a complicated matter, but surely they could do better. They could, you know what I mean, that sort out the actual problems in the supply chain and the supply of houses, loosening restrictions on building homes. But some say it's deliberately done because those that own all the properties, like all the boomers, a lot of them, because there's a statistic on what percentage of homes are owned by boomers compared to other generations, and they massively overrepresent that. So it's very telling that it's like they're holding up homes and they want the prices of those homes to keep going up. So what they do is end up screwing over younger people, which is going to make it harder for people to actually buy a house. Yeah, that's the thing. The government's going to like sponsor all that, and I just think, well, why are we doing that when we have our own problems to deal with, you know? And I understand that people want to be all like, you know, compassionate and all that. But the thing is that what you get for doing that, young women getting abused, you know, that's what this country gets for being compassionate and having tolerance and all that. Is now, of course, this isn't happening like a massive amount, but it's enough to where like there's a clear issue going on. But if you talk about it, then you're a racist. Yeah, I've heard about all that. Yeah, like Jeremy Clarkson farm and all that, and yeah, so like that's another thing as well. Land prices will just end up being sky high because all these corporations just like hoard land because it's an investment for them, right? But have you heard about this whole forest greening project or whatever, and trying to like forest re-greening or whatever, and like trying to, which some suggest might cause food supply shortages, which again could lead to hiked price of food. Because when things are in short supply and high demand, then, well, you guessed it. Oh yeah, blocking out the sun. Yeah, we were talking about that as well with the. Now some say that these trails don't really, that they're what they call persistent contrails, and that they don't really affect the weather. But I've seen like you can have like one day it could be, perfectly blue skies, and then half an hour later like there's these trails everywhere, completely white skies. Like I remember there was this. I remember there was a guy called Mick West, and he had this kind of debunking site called Metabunk or something, and he was trying to argue that the sky would have just turned white anyway. I mean, I don't know where he's getting that from, but how can you go from like having white, perfectly blue skies, all these trails happen, 30 minutes later, sky is all white. Oh, it's just a coincidence, or it just would have happened anyway. Really? I'm just not buying that. Or shorts. I mean, whether it's chemtrails or contrails or whatever, there's clearly some issue with, like, you know, when you see the sun being blocked and what's that doing to the weather, you know. Bill Gates is over the top villain character. How many people still take what he's saying seriously? I know, he's like,
hey, it's Bill Gates, and you should trust me because I'm a billionaire, and you should trust a billionaire.
When I try to do a Bill Gates impression, it almost sounds like Joe Rogan. Like, they almost sound kind of similar, don't they? I don't know if anyone's ever noticed that, but I remember someone was saying that you sound like Joe Rogan when doing that.
Like, when I do Joe Rogan, it's like, hi, you're watching Joe Rogan Experience. And here's my guest for the 400th time, Kill Tony. How are you doing, Kill Tony? And for the 500th time, we're getting Shane Gillis on the show. So, give me your best Donald Trump impression.
Hello there, Joe. It's so nice to see you. You're a great guy. You're a very tremendous guy.
Wow, you did such a great impression.
Oh yeah, give him bread and circles. What was this? His mom was literally in a cult. That whole purpose was to decrease the population. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. This whole thing when they were saying about, you know, like, the population going up to, like, what was it, 8, 9 billion, whatever they were saying, and they were saying how, you know, if we use certain, you know, strategies, we can perhaps lower that by about 10 to 15%, but some say that's a bit took out of context, and what they were saying is that they were trying to slow the growth because if, for example, if we have healthcare and things like that, and people are less likely to have as many children, like in these impoverished nations, they tend to have a lot of children. Some suggest the theory is that in countries where they have, you know, lots of children, because basically they try and have as many as they can because they know that a lot probably won't survive. So let's say if they have, you know, like 5 children, 3 or 4 of them might pass due to malaria or dengue fever or whatever other, I don't know exactly what, I know malaria is one of them, what other ones is there, maybe like dysentery or something like that, I don't know, whatever kind of diseases that they have. I also have mixed feelings about activists. Personally, I don't cause unwanted pregnancies, but who am I to tell women who are not careful that they must raise a child if I'm not willing to offer them support in raising the child? Yeah, well, there's that whole kind of debate, isn't there, but there's a whole, yeah, it kind of gets a very, like, touchy subject and stuff, but it's just that if someone actually was to go through it and actually see, you know, what comes out, and they'll be like, and even if, we don't exactly know at what point it becomes sentient, but just the whole kind of, the fact that there's, like, life is, you know, there's some kind of life started. If they had to see what had actually come out, it'd be like, could be pretty horrifying. But no, I'm from the UK. I mean, I heard something about, like, what is it, Cenomix, whatever it's called, that creates, like, flavorings that apparently used fetal cell or something like that, something along those lines, or some cloned fetal. So you'd have to fact check that, but that's pretty weird, I would say, isn't it? So there seems to be some like industry for this kind of weird shit. Yeah. Well, that's the thing, isn't it? I remember seeing a documentary on Sonia Poulton, which was about the cancer industry and how it's this massive industry that it's all about kind of it's about trying to put out food that just make people sick and lifestyles or whatever. It's just they're trying to encourage people to get it almost seems, so they can just sell you the solutions. It's like same with a lot of things, really. It seems it's just that everyone's just like trying to manufacture a society just to exploit them when they're vulnerable and stuff. Prevent more AIDS by handing out education pamphlets and offering financial support for raising children to women considering AIDS. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, right? Shouldn't we be more talking about, financial support and stuff and actually, like, because if their reason for not wanting to raise a child is because of financial reasons, then shouldn't we be focusing on that? Because I think there's something quite special to raising a child if you have the ability to do it, but there seems to be a kind of encouragement of actually, to not have children at all. The thing called antinatalism, which is, I understand where people are coming from, and but there are systemic issues that need to be addressed. And it kind of feels like people are doing it as a form of protest, but you also could consider that some of these are quite potentially like dark triad type of people who they're quite negative, right? They have a very negative view of things. They're quite narcissistic and they're quite they have a very sort of negative view on society. They just see society as just kind of they're very like nihilistic and yeah, I've heard about chemo and stuff, but it's just for some people it's like, well, what other choice have they got, right? So I was arguing with someone a while ago. It's like, well, because I've seen people who have died from not taking it, that like there's people who didn't take any of the medications, whether it be chemo, whether it be radiotherapy or whatever, and they unfortunately are no longer with us because they got so deep down the rabbit hole. So, hello Max, how you doing? Hope you well. What's that then? Because I cannot be going around claiming to have a cure for cancer. Like there's people claiming things like CBD or THC or whatever, and I'm just not buying it. There seems to be a lot of snake oil salesmen out there, in my opinion. So I remember there was this guy called Rick Simpson, and he had this thing called Rick Simpson oil. I mean, some people were claiming it was like cure for cancer, but I just don't really buy it. Oh, just not for us. Well, maybe, who knows? But yeah, there was also people claiming that apricot kernels were also supposedly a cure, but I've also heard that that's a lot of crap. I think the best thing is prevention, is to kind of focus on prevention, because if you can prevent it happening, then that's going to be a lot better than once you've already got it, then trying to fight it. Then we should be looking at trying to create an environment where we are much less likely to get. Of course, there's certain genetic predispositions and stuff like that, but oftentimes lifestyle had at least a contributing factor in the progression of that cancer in a lot of cases. So trying to create a more optimal environment is better, you know, for like preventing the onset of cancer in the first place. So it's prime at 70 years. Oh yeah, they seem to be like well, some believe in like achrome, that they're, I don't know, maybe they're just taking some kind of other things that are kind of not available to the public. Who knows what they're on, but I'm not sure if I really believe in the whole achrome thing. I'm trying to be careful with what I'm saying on here. That's why I'm speaking in code. Yeah, I'm trying to speak in code here, but some of you guys might know what I'm talking about. I mean, it could very well be happening, but people claiming that it's some kind of elixir of youth, like fountain of youth. I don't know. Like Rothschilds doing this shit, Rockefellers. It could just be they're rich and that they can keep themselves going longer due to all that. A lot of them seem to live to like almost like 100 years old. So, and a lot of them probably aren't even the healthiest. So, like they might just eat normal food and stuff, right? Kept going because of whatever. I mean, you could say, well, they have a lot of more advanced medications and things that they have access to, right? Wasn't snake oil sold as a cancer cure in the past? Maybe that's where the whole term come from, I'm not sure. Sunshine Pride, how you doing? I hope you're well. But there's a lot of things that we just got to be careful what we believe in, right? Because there's a lot of, yeah. Because if you fall for that, then you could just end up, unfortunately, saying goodbye to the world. Hi, Voltaire GT, how you doing? I hope you're well. Smash that like button, everybody. Thank you for the 52 likes. But yeah, we just have to be careful what we're telling people, you know, to take, whether that be plant medicine or whatever, because while it might inarguably help aid things like chemotherapy, or maybe help to potentially reduce some of the negative side effects of it, potentially, but to claim it, for someone to claim these things as a cure is quite irresponsible, I would say. Hi, Reluctant, how you doing? Good to see you, I hope you're well. What have you been up to? Smash that like button, everybody. We're on 55 likes. Oh yeah, hello, Papa Penguin, how you doing? Welcome to the live stream. Hope you're having a great day. Yeah, oh yeah, nice weather, yeah. It's been a bit hot though, hasn't it? Yeah, it's been very, yeah, it's been quite hot for the time of year. Hello, Palo Video, how you doing? Hope you're well today. Yeah, we was like over, like, in the 30s the other day, on, when was it? Monday, I think. Yeah, it got into the, 30s. Oh, really? Oh, wow. Yeah, definitely some strange weather anomalies and stuff. Now, again, whether that's climate change, whether that's weather manipulation, what do you guys think? I mean, I try and keep an open mind, but there's definitely something going on, though. Whatever you want to interpret that as, but there's something, this weather has changed. You know, I think almost everyone can agree that something's changed, and people always say, oh, it's just natural cycles. Well, I'm not buying that. It's happening too quickly. Oh yeah, I heard about Dean Ornish. Well, I remember you were doing about, was it Esselstyn and Ornish? They were like the, yeah. Oh, you're on about prostate cancer. Yeah. I saw about high fat being, but that might be a thing. Maybe I'll get prostate cancer or something. I don't know, but I don't know if like exercise and other things can help to prevent that. But I eat quite high fat diet because I just try and use it to get calories and stuff like that, and So hopefully I'm not going to end up with prostate cancer or something, but what are you saying? None of the patients in the low-fat plant-based group that required a prostatectomy, but some in the traditional treatment group did require the surgery. Oh, really? Oh, wow. Well, that's interesting, isn't it? I heard that they were a bit controversial with like their claims on reversing heart disease, like as in like what they call it, atherosclerosis. They were claiming that the low-fat vegetarian diet was responsible for reversing. Basically, some argue that saying that you can't reverse atherosclerotic plaque. But they were claiming that you could reduce, or you could actually get rid of it somehow. But some said that it's stuck there once you've got it. So some might say it's just that you can reverse some of the symptoms, maybe from like, anyway, maybe due to weight loss or something like that, right? Obviously, if you lose weight, that can help lower blood pressure and stuff like that, which puts less strain on the heart. Some major insurance companies cover Dean Ornish's program for reversing heart disease. Really? Oh, really? Hi, King Kong, how you doing? So what are you saying there then? Like, are you saying that you would back it then or something? Yeah. Sometimes the plaque buildup can be reversed, and other times the best that can be done is to stop it from growing. Yeah. So why can it be reversed sometimes and not other times? Hi, the Kitty footballers. How you doing? Hope you're doing well, official. How you doing today? Welcome to the live. I'm from the UK. Where are you from? Smash that like button, everyone, if you don't mind. What do you mean, boiling frog? Huh. Anyway. So yeah, like, they're saying that, so why is it that a high-fat diet can cause pancreatic cancer? And what about plant-based fats? Is that better, or is it still bad or something? Like, I'm just wondering, like, it says it does not directly cause pancreatic cancer on its own, but it significantly increases your risk of developing it. Health organizations like the American Cancer Society and the Royal Marsden NHS Trust classify diets rich in saturated fats, red meat and processed meats as major modifiable risk factors. So like obesity and visceral fat, high fat, high calorie diets frequently lead to excess weight. Obesity is the second biggest preventable cause of pancreatic cancer, responsible for over 10% of cases. I'd rather not get the plaques in the first place. I've never had an angiogram, but my cholesterol score has always come back normal. Well, that's good then. Is that true? Blueberries? But I was on this astaxanthin, and there's said to be some potential protective effect. But it was talking about the type of fat. So, yeah, saturated fats tend to be, things like omega-3s actually said to suppress the risk. So high omega-3s could be good. Anyway, so let's see about astaxanthin. I've started taking this supplement that, see what it says about that. Saying about this that it may help combat pancreatic cancer and counteract the damage caused by high-fat diets. It is a naturally occurring red-pink pigment, a carotenoid found in microalgae salmon, krill, and shrimp. Because it has exceptionally high antioxidant and anti-inflammatory properties, medical researchers have heavily studied its potential therapeutic impact on the pancreas. Hi Vortex, how you doing? Hope you're well. I've heard of NAC, but I've not really looked too much into it. Also, I've heard of CoQ10 as well. Have you heard that one? I'll ask Mick Campbell. I think my mum used to take that, but yeah, CoQ10 you can actually get from by ingesting dark leafy green vegetables and exposing yourself to the sun, which is said to help with actually restoring CoQ10, which is has antioxidant properties, I believe. So eating a diet rich in leafy greens. Not to mention that leafy greens are also a good way to get nitrates as well. But yeah, obviously you'll get vitamin D from the sun. But let's have a look. I've been using hydroxy petite toothpaste instead of fluoride toothpaste for the last few months. Studies indicate it's effective at preventing cavities, but it's not toxic. It also, hang on. Vitamin D without vitamin K is useless. Yeah. Vitamin K is, that's true. I've heard that. Also, what is it? Calcium as well, because vitamin D it helps with calcium uptake or something, which obviously if you're not eating enough calcium, then, well, it's good as useless for that anyway, in my opinion. But yeah. Know your creator one. Hello, how you doing today? I hope you're well. Okay. Didn't know that. What's that? So it says about inhibiting pancreatic lipase. Studies show astaxanthin naturally blocks the entrance channel of pancreatic lipase, the enzyme the pancreas secretes to break down dietary fats. By slowing down this enzyme, it can reduce the absorption of unhealthy long-chain fats and potentially lower the risk of obesity. Yeah, kale. Yeah. Does spinach have some as well? Creators or extraterrestrial, what do you mean? Oh, really, Zazzy? How you doing, Zazzy? Welcome in. Hope you're doing well. Thanks for the 61 likes, everybody. Alright. Oh, it's good for your enamel and non-toxic, right. Who? Kian, thank you. Hi, welcome in. How's it going today? So it says about protecting pancreatic tissue as well. So animal studies have shown that astaxanthin can protect the pancreas from severe injury and cellular stress. It triggers a boost in the body's natural antioxidant enzymes like superoxide dismutase and catalase to clear out the toxic systemic inflammation often caused by a poor diet. So I'm not saying that you should have a poor diet, but obviously animal studies as well got to take that into consideration. Obviously, animal studies are not going to be as good as human studies because, well, animals' anatomy is somewhat different and isn't always 100%. So I remember Clyde, you was arguing with someone about, like, your argument against using animal testing, because even if we're not going on about the ethical implications of that basically the whole thing of it being potentially inaccurate and misleading is enough reason to be kind of hello, Gashast, against it, basically. Yeah, is everybody doing all right? Back into the chat. What's that? Been using grass-fed homemade tallow for my face lately. I highly recommend. Oh, really? Yeah, I've heard people go on about tallow. But I don't know what your thoughts on that, Clyde, because yeah, there's that whole thing, isn't there? I've also heard about coconut oil. I've heard supposed to be a good one for the skin. Yeah, there's a good book about how animal studies are often misleading, called Sacred Cows and Golden Geese. It's written by a medical doctor and veterinarian. Yeah. Obviously, there can be a good one to, like, encourage further research, because if there's promising studies, like, say, with animal studies, then it can make you want to then do, like, a human study to be, oh, well, this is what's found in animal studies, but then, again, they're not really ethical, are they? But, yeah, if we can just skip straight to human trials, then we get conclusive data then, right? Double-blind, placebo-controlled trials, things like that. Oh yeah, your farmers would be better than, say, like, what you get in the shops, but they're going to be expensive, and a lot of people are going to struggle to, afford prices at things like farmers markets and stuff. That's the only thing, isn't it? Again, the system's been designed to where buying anything that's good is actually hard. Like, if you're earning enough money, then yeah, it's good to support, like local farmers or whatever, but local businesses. But a lot of people are going to struggle to do that. If, say, for example, you go to some like small business and they're charging £3-4 for a dark chocolate bar, for example, or something like that, then who's going to pay for that? Not that many people are going to have the money to be able to fund that. Yeah. But it's just, this system is designed to be very hostile for small businesses. My local group bicycle ride was cancelled today due to 20-mile-per-hour winds. Well, isn't that much, really, is it? 20 mile. I guess it's worse on a bike. I remember I was on a bike and it felt a bit scary, like going down a hill, and it was like blowing me to the side. So yeah, that's can be a bit of an issue, can't it? I was just thinking something, actually. Would having more weight actually make you faster downhill, because you'd have less, there'd be potentially less wind resistance to the side kind of pushing about and stuff? Could that potentially prevent some of the swaying going on with the wind, so you can just, I don't know, just a thought that I had. But still, the overall effect, the overall benefit to being smaller would, in general, but yeah, would it actually be advantageous on downhills to be heavier, is what I was wondering, just as a kind of thought experiment there. We could ride in 20-mile-per-hour winds, but it would make the ride less enjoyable. Well, I suppose there is that. We need to do an experiment. Hang on, what's that? You're praying also for the morality of knowing where your meats come from and how it was. Oh, there is all that, but it's just who's got the money these days for that, you know? When they would just basically be completely destitute if they had to like, let's say if you're someone who's on minimum wage and you're, you know, going back to the whole thing, you know, if you're a single person in a house, right, then, oh yeah, then basically it's going to be hard, isn't it? And yeah, ideally you would buy from somewhere that's ethical, right, and more, but beggars can't be choosers, as they say, you know. Some people have certain commitments, right? They have families and they're having to feed them beans on toast or something. Sugar sandwich is almost at that point, but now some might say that you should be more responsible but what are they supposed to do, eh? Yeah. Everything's under attack basically, isn't it? Like like I was saying, they're trying to make it to where you can't own land, basically, own anything. Now, and I was arguing with someone about this whole thing of owning a home. I think we should all be able to own a home. You know, especially once someone gets to 30 plus, right? They should be already owning a home. I don't care what anybody says. It's like, if you can't even own the place that you live, then I think that says a lot about where we are as a society, right? This whole kind of disposable society, everything's on contracts now, like these phone contracts. You've got, you know, like lengthy contracts that you're signing up to, and you know what I mean? Yeah, I'm British, yeah. Why not buy beans and rice? Yeah, you could do that, to be fair. Yeah. Depends if people want to do that, though, you know? Not everyone wants to eat rice and beans all the time. Yeah, please. Yeah, okay. Anyway. Hope you're all having a great day. Adam, how you doing today? Okay, take care. Zazie, have a good one. Okay, thank you, Adam. So, 67 likes. So here we go with that number. Oh, goodness. People are now viewed as disposable economic units. Basically, that's what it is. And if you're not able to be contributing anything, then you're just seen as a useless eater. That's why there's this whole push for euthanasia and all this kind of stuff, right? And that could get quite abused and like, you know what I mean, where I've been seeing some stuff on like this whole kind of what they call it, like assisted dying bill, and I've heard some, because I was watching on that Tonya Paul, and she was talking about how this Esther Ranson, this was a person that had a lot of apparently ties with that, well, not ties, but she had a lot of connection to like Savile, and she's someone who was also one that helped found the child line thing, right? And she's absolutely basically like she's apparently been supporting this whole assisted dying bill. There's a lot of like, it's like when you look into a lot of these people, they're not all good in my opinion, right? A lot of them have a big dark side to them that they don't show. They portray themselves as being good people. Is the Ukrainian war assisted death for young men? Well, that's a good question, isn't it? It's like when people say that, I said you're not seeing you for ages, how you doing? It's like when they say that lottery is tax for poor people, you know? It's like they will get you in some way, won't they, right? They will, the system will just squeeze every last thing out of you, every last bit of money out of you, or bit of energy out of you, whatever they can do. Thank you for the 60 likes, everybody. Much appreciated. Yeah, not too bad, thank you. Yeah. But I'd say, if like people wanted to come together and maybe like buy up some property perhaps, either to live in or to rent it out to other people, perhaps, But they say, you need to have money to make money, but if people can come together, it makes it a lot easier, doesn't it? Can get your foot on the ladder that much easier when we're all joining forces. Because that's what the elites do, is that they have connections, they have like all these there's all this nepotism and all that, like family connections, community connections and all that. They say it's not what you know, it's who you know, right? So we have to learn from that. It's like, for example, where I used to live in Blackburn, and you look at a lot of these homes, and a lot of the people there, they're big families, they're all, kind of like, pool their resources together, and I think that can be a good way to be more prosperous, and yeah. So they would get access to a lot of things from that. So we can learn from that. Also, they don't really tend to drink a lot of alcohol, unless they're like not really strictly religious or anything. But if they're strict with their religion, they do not drink a single drop of alcohol. Also, they probably don't be smoking and stuff. Anything that's seen as a drug. So it is actually possible if we all work together to like pull our resources together and actually live a good life, I have a big family. They don't give money, but will direct us towards work or share some space for a bit. Yeah, that's the thing, is that if your family cares, they should actually. And like I said, I think that staying with family in this day and age is actually the smartest thing. If you can do that, if your family will let you stay living with them, as long as you like mutually respect each other, you mutually benefit each other, then I think it can be good. But like I said, it seems to be like they've like sort of they have manufactured this. They have social engineered. They call it social engineering or social warfare or whatever, and you know what I mean. All this stuff that they do, destroying the family unit, destabilizing society. All manufactured. I think they have, sort of manipulated it to their own benefit. So where is this whole thing from? Oh, you're a loser if you don't leave your home by 25, for example, some arbitrary number. Like that is that because, because if you were to stay living with your home, then you could actually be a lot more successful if you put all that extra money into whatever, that you could invest it. But they don't want people doing that, it seems, They want people to just be miserable and all dependent on the system. Hyper individualism through psychology, yeah, because they're trying to convince you that, it's all about individualism, and if you've moved out, then somehow that's some achievement because you're now independent. They sell you this idea of independence through, it's great to move out, you're free and whatever, but I would argue you're not free if you're bound to a system that is, trapping you. That is not freedom. That is not independence. You're not independent if you're relying on, like some corporation to feed you, are you? So it's all a lie, isn't it? Here we go. I was able to live at home as a young man as long as I had a job and helped with household chores. My dad had the money to support me, but he didn't want me living like a leech off him. Yeah, as long as you're not leeching off your parents. Like, so in some cases they'll let you do that if you actually do some chores, I guess. It depends on what you're doing, I guess, really. Yeah. But yeah, hyper-individualism, that's what... We're more and more divided, more and more, you know, just like an individual because of, you know, like the way that they're trying to push society for their own agenda. The corporate international theme versus small family units. Yeah, I know. Like we were talking earlier about how they're deliberately destroying the family unit. And I reckon that this whole kind of anti-natalist movement is some kind of psyop as well. I don't know. Like, I mean, I know that word gets thrown around a lot these days, but it's like, where does that all come from? Where's this whole? I mean, I understand where some people are coming from, but where did it all come from? Because I keep hearing people going about anti-natalism. That people who are against having children. Where does that all come from now? It's got to come from somewhere, right? Does anyone know where that come from? Just like the whole move out by a certain age, otherwise you're a loser. Where did all these things come from? So it sounds like some social engineering shit going on. Some powers that be or whatever trying to manipulate things. Or his elites because he paid all the bills and bought all the food, but he didn't want me to live like a bum. Yeah. Antinatalism is an old idea, but it has recently been popularized. So who's popularized it? And where did that come from anyway? Where did the old idea come from? Like, where's that? Like, what's its roots in? Is it a particular political ideology or whatever? I also heard this thing, it's changing the subject now, but I remember there was this thing I was talking with someone about the whole Karl Marx thing and the Marxism being against spirituality, basically, and because spiritualism is about individualism. So actually, I think there's a point to having individualism, right? Whereas collectivism can be dangerous if it gets to kind of to where like it's to the sacrifice of an individual liberty. If you understand what I'm saying. Hi Zayn Ali, how you doing? Thanks for the 73 likes. So we have to find a balance of community and individualism. Because the thing with Marxism is that would lead to, in my opinion, it would just lead to like a dystopia. But that's my opinion anyway. I mean, who knows? Maybe it could be done in a certain way that does not, but that actually respects individual liberty. But then, would that really be communism then, or whatever? Schopenhauer was a German philosopher in 1800s, and he discussed antinatalism. I'm guessing the idea is even older than that, probably. But just wondering what's brought it into relevance again. Who really kind of? I remember there was a guy called Social Experimentalist, and he was very much kind of, promoting those views of antinatalism. I mean, that's, in my opinion, a bit sort of, well, I think it's, I understand that some people have children for selfish reasons, and you could say it's a selfish act, but there's also, good to being alive as well as there's bad. Is that the antinatalists would just kind of ignore all the good stuff and just hyper focus on all the bad. And yeah, sometimes life really sucks, but but maybe there's this kind of like the opposite of survivorship bias. You could call it failure bias, where somebody's worldview is biased based on their own shitty experiences. So they might see, because they, therefore, everyone should just stop giving birth. It seems very illogical, and they struggle to sort of see any kind of positivity to life. Yeah, that's different, right? If someone's not situated to care for children, like if you say have mental health issues and things like that, then you're someone who's not really, responsible to have children, and that's fair enough, right? But when someone's trying to push it on others, saying that we should all stop having children, then that's where I draw the line, because you're saying to like deny someone a chance of existing, it's kind of like because of your own personal shitty experiences. I mean, it just, you know what I mean? Got to get moved again. What's that? Do you wonder if the state having more social housing could help life be less harsh? Okay, could it make life less harsh? Well, if you have a kid or two at your age, oh yeah, well, I don't know really. I mean, I could if I want to, but I have to feel like I'm ready for that, and obviously have to meet the right person as well, of course, but thank you for the 74 likes. Hello, Tank Billiana. How you doing? So, what we're saying is whether more social housing. I would say that social housing could probably not really be the end goal. I mean, I think we should be encouraging more people to own their own homes, but even if that means having more just small homes and stuff like that, and they could say that it could be provided by the state or whatever, but I think the long-term idea would be to have less and less dependence on the state. I don't know, I think that the whole idea of depending on the state is like this whole nanny state thing. It's just, I'd argue it's part of the problem. One mate just had a third daughter at age 47, really. Yeah, 47. There's a lot having them later now, isn't there? Yeah. Anyway. 27C here, really. Yeah, I think it's about 24 up here, but still quite warm though. Thank you for the 75 likes. Let's get it to 100 likes. So yeah, it was like housing, I think there's got to be better solutions and stuff, aren't there, Like if we focus more on like different, I think that we should look into more like modular homes, right? I think that could be more a kind of way forward, just because of how easy and cheap they are to build. They don't take a lot of time to build. Like, look at how long it takes the average home to be built. Look at how long it takes modular homes to be built. So if people are in need of urgent housing, then I think we should have more of those available. Like, they don't take up massive amounts of space. They're quite convenient to build. They can be built very, very quickly. Know what, Dr. Laura? So, if people need the housing, then, there is ways that can be done a lot easier. Like, why are we still doing these brick and mortar homes that are like, in my opinion, very outdated. Yeah, to growing the child probably, yeah. very outdated methods of building houses, in my opinion. Like, why are we still using some very inefficient way to build houses? It's almost like it's by design. I don't know. Yeah, that's the thing. There's abandoned houses that could be renovated. I think I was talking about this whole thing of like manufactured shortages in supply. If we actually looked at there's literally thousands and thousands of abandoned vacant homes that could be renovated. That'd be a lot cheaper, I think, than building tons and tons of new ones, I think. Why not do that? You know? But it depends if there's like still technically an owner. But I think that the laws should be changed to where like if you've left a home abandoned for so long, and especially if it's in a little bit of a dilapidated state, it should just be completely just like took off them if they're not gonna because otherwise they're just taking the piss, aren't they, you know? The brick and mortar homes, I mean, there is that, but it's just, a lot of this new stuff is like, you know, you could argue it's not very, you could argue that that's the problem with some of these new styles of homes, that they won't last very long. But with modular homes, they're very cheap to build. They're probably about the same price as like a tiny home or something, like a friggin' caravan or something. So yeah, they're not like, they're not exactly like gonna last forever. I'll have to have a look and see how long they can last, but just out of curiosity, really. But they only cost usually a few thousand to make, but the profit margins are going to be much less, and it would end up like basically cutting off a lot of jobs, a lot of skilled jobs. Let's have a look. Oh yeah. You also have some nice stone buildings up in Yorkshire, the northeast. Oh yeah. Well, it says here 30 to 50 plus years, with many lasting 50 to 80 years or more. Because they are built to the exact same building codes as traditional site-built homes, their true lifespan depends heavily on the materials used and regular maintenance. So yeah, there you go. I've seen a house go from the foundations being dug in 6 weeks to roof on. Oh yeah. It's just there's a lot of like very inefficient ways of it being done, but yeah, there's some built in factories. There's like these modular homes, these like prefab homes, right? That can be put up very quickly. And some of them are going for very, very cheap. So I'm just saying, if people need homes, then construction industry panels. What's that? I don't know how well insulated they are, though. That's the thing. I'm guessing they must be to a certain level, right? With these modern designs. You could buy a house from a Sears catalogue, really. Yeah, well, that's the thing, right? How much would the average house have cost? Probably about a few thousand, maybe, if that. Because, like, in the 80s, it was about 40,000 in this country. So, like, when my grandma and granddad, they bought a house in 1980 for £11,000, right? When it eventually got sold about a few years ago, right? Like 40 years after it was bought, at like 90,000. So that means that the price of the house had gone up by 8 times, yet the wages I don't think had really gone up by that much, had they really? I don't think so. The average wage, if you look at it, probably nowhere near. Quit after 2 days, really. If I could go back in time, I would have stuck with the job. I could have learned something about house construction. Maybe. I suppose there is that. You could then just take the skills from that and then just kind of leave and then just kind of build your own home or something. I don't know. You could just, even if it's just a hut or something, you might get some valuable skills from that. So I suppose it can be good just to trade up in certain areas, even if you don't intend to stay with it very long. You can just... But there are people out there that can do these skills, and you could always provide a certain benefit. Let's say if someone wants to make an off-grid community and they're looking for like different skills, people who can do different jobs, right? Someone might work on the certain aspects of it, whether that be the plumbing works, whether that be the, you know, like the roofing or tiling or whatever it might be, right? The carpentry works. Or joinery, isn't it? Joinery is like when it's to do with like yeah, that's to do with like the buildings, isn't it? Whereas I believe like carpentry is more to do with things like tables, chairs, that kind of stuff. I actually learnt some of that stuff. Like I actually made a table. It was only a little like coffee table thing, but yeah, it might even be good to just learn things like refurbishing and things like that. I think I was talking with someone about this before, and it might be a good hustle to get into, you know, if you refurbish. Another thing I was thinking was to like do engravings. So like if you do like say get like a, you know, maybe you would get a table or something like that and you would engrave something into it, perhaps like a certain like pattern or some kind of logo or whatever it might be. I'm wondering if like how you would actually do that. I guess you would use some kind of tool and some kind of, maybe you would use some kind of thing to like engrave it. I'm not too sure how that sort of stuff would work, but it'd be interesting to get into something like that. You could probably just get shit off fucking Facebook Marketplace, right? Get a friggin' table, right? Just give it a good, you know, maybe do some engravings or whatever and make it fancy. And then send, you know, to do some like, you know, varnish, whatever, and then, what was your uncle? Fanny's your aunt. What's OSB? That sounds like USB, but with an O. Anyway. Yeah. So I think it'd be interesting to look into something like that. I remember we were talking about like doing some kind of crafts and things like coasters and things like that, like sea glass coasters. I don't know if anyone would be interested in buying that, but I still kind of, I might put that on my back burner, that idea, but maybe I can try it out, you know, I can start, maybe I could do it whilst live streaming, who knows, right? I could just mess around with some grout, because I've seen like how you can do as you would, basically, you would have to like put some, I think they use like some glue to stick them down, and then they would grout them like afterwards, so they would kind of like create like a mosaic type of effect, right? So maybe something like that could be worth doing, but it just depends if, I'd have to find out if there's actually any kind of market for that, if anyone would want to, you know, buy something like that. So I could do that shit whilst on live or something, just talk to you guys while I'm doing it, you know? so you could watch it all happening, and yeah. Not sure how exactly it would go, but yeah, it would just probably be, like I said, just sea glass with like grout filling, so it looks all kind of neat and stuff. Because a lot of people like buy them on Etsy and stuff like that, but I'm not sure like how I would actually sell it to people. Maybe I would just kind of, I'd probably do it through some kind of PayPal or some other method of transferring it over, and then people would just give an address and I'd just send it to them. But anyway, it's yeah. Hang on a sec. Yeah, what's up to Grout? Oh yeah. Yeah, Grout. Hello, Caterpillar. Hello, Chrissy Benz. Alright. I don't know, it's just, I was also thinking of like doing some like graffiti art style. I was wondering if I could do like that as like engravings possibly, I don't know. Like some kind of fancy text style engraved into some wood or something. Whether that be a coaster or something like that. That might be an idea. Not sure how you would do that. I guess you could just kind of yeah, you would just sort of engrave it into the wood. Not sure what device you would use. Maybe you could use like power tools and stuff like. But maybe that's something to research. I'm doing fine, thank you. Varsha Singh. Hope you're well, thanks for the 78 likes. Smash that like button, everyone. I'm from the UK, what about yourself? Yeah. So what do you all think then? Do you think that is viable? Doing something like that, just to think of ideas. I've even seen ones where they use seashell coasters, you know, where they would like do grout. Another one would be seashell necklaces or something like that, or even sea glass necklaces. You just have to have something to kind of like put a hole into it. So you need some kind of tool that you can use to do that. Oh, is it rainy over there? Oh, really? Is it wet season over there at the moment then? Anyway, everybody doing all right? So yeah, you could do like necklaces, bracelets, that kind of stuff. Heavy rainfall, all right. I've heard that the whole like pearl industry is quite kind of fucked up, because basically like, you know, you get the people like buying the pearls and stuff, and they're like, because you know where the pearls actually come from, right? I don't know if you guys know this, but it basically what happens is when an oyster is like, when it's stressed, like say it ingests some like something that it shouldn't or something, then that forms a crystal, like a pearl crystal, and then that kind of grows and grows, and it becomes like a sort of bowl-shaped thing, right? So it's not something that's really naturally occurring in a lot of cases. It's like been manufactured to happen by these companies, would just deliberately feed the oysters with stuff to basically force them to like produce pearls. The high temperature for today in Swedesboro, New Jersey is 20 degrees. It's a few degrees below average for this time of year, really. So yeah, we're kind of like the opposite here, really, isn't it? Yeah, bit odd weather going on all over the world, like contradicting kind of weather and stuff. But yes, I knew about pearls. The oyster cover is a intruding particle with the pearl material. Yeah. So it's to like, something about it's to protect itself or something, is it? To try and stop more shit getting in. So it's not really, the most ethical thing in the world. Which is unfortunate. I guess, I don't know, like, you could get, like, imitation, but then people want to have the real shit, don't they? Because of the whole status or whatever, and the, like, how people want to buy diamonds, and aren't diamonds oftentimes corrupt how they get them as well? Like, I remember there was a film called Blood Diamond. I don't know if any of you have seen that one. It was, I think it had Leonardo DiCaprio in it or something, but it was a good film. It was like quite dark and about the kind of like the reality of it, of the, you know, like the what they call, like, the diamond mining, whatever they call it, for, yeah. Anyway. Yeah, what were you saying? Yeah, I mean, I think so. Jewelry is often associated with money laundering. Well, yeah, there is that whole thing as well, isn't there? Yeah, going back to the whole money laundering and the vape shops and all that sort of stuff. Hello, Asti Ayad, how you doing? I hope you're well. Because just like the maths of it does not add up, right? If you've got, like, say, 2 people going into a friggin' vape shop every day, let's say, 2 customers, let's say, then that's not enough for them to stay afloat. In fact, and oftentimes they're not even covering the costs of running the place, let alone to pay wages. So there's clearly something else going on there, isn't there, you know? Yeah, Hollywood's not necessarily historically accurate, but I could imagine that there's been some quite, you know, dark things with the a lot of businesses, really. So yeah, so it might be like exaggerated or whatever, but hello, Daisy May, good to see you. I hope you're well. Is everybody doing alright then? Welcome to the live stream. Adam plays Nedits. How you doing? Yeah, oh, it was Adam plays and edits, not Adam plays Nedits. Yeah, happy Saturday. Have you been live today then, or what are you up to today then? I keep calling you Daisy May, but what was your name again? Like you said, that was your yeah, that was your plushie, whatever they call them. Plushie. Yeah. Oh, a little while ago, what did you do? Just your, like, games and stuff? I'm noticing you're getting a lot of views when you do your drawing people's names and stuff, and I saw this other channel doing that, and they get loads and loads of views. But he was using some kind of, like, material to write the names, which was cool. It looks quite fancy, but yeah, like, so these lives seem to do well for some reason. I guess it's just the whole personalized thing or whatever, and
Uncut Gems, no, I've not seen that one. Right. Yeah, I've seen a couple of his films, but yeah. Have you ever seen a film called Click? I think it was called that he did, but it wasn't the best, but yeah. I think it was called Click. Hi Baldy, how you doing? Many people write names, it's just super busy and exhausting to us. Yeah, there is that, isn't there, because of the influx of people, right? Not sure like what you would ultimately get from that, and like I guess it helps grow the channel, but most of these people don't actually watch your other sorts of streams, so then does it help you to like get more donations and things? It's like, how much help will it get your channel? Because yeah, you got like what 18,000 subs or whatever, but how many of them actually stick around? That's good if they come back, but do they only just come back for the drawing the names though, or do they actually come into the other live streams that you do, like the games and stuff? If they're actually doing that, then that's good. So I'm just thinking what I can do with this channel. Like, is there something that I could try and do? Yeah, Sandler is no Uncut Gems is not a comedy. It's actually quite a dark movie. Yeah, that's the thing. Sometimes it can be a bit sort of difficult for them to transition away from that, because they can be seen as like the comedian. So if they actually do quite a dark movie, then it's hard to know if it's going to go well or not, because it might feel a bit sort of like a bit out of their kind of genre or something. Well, that's good then. But yeah, that a lot of them are kids, yeah, because those are the types that would come to those sort of streams. But is it actually helping you with like, I don't know what, I mean, obviously you do like a sort of, what is it, PayPal and stuff. Do you get like many people doing that? Because I don't really get that. I mean, I'm guessing you not really do it for that. You just kind of just do it to pass time or whatever. And yeah, just wondering if you have any sort of like end goal with your channel. Is it just to continue doing what you're doing? And thanks for the 82 likes, everybody. Nice one. 83 likes now. Thank you. Everybody doing all right today then? Smash that like button. Well, I don't know. I mean, I could probably apply for monetization, but I can't be asked, because they said I have to like upload some fucking shit. I have to upload an unlisted video. I'm like, what the hell? And I've also heard that a lot of people don't even get, like accepted again. So, okay. Random channel, how you doing? Thank you. I have some regulars on my coffee page and some members. That's good then. Do you actually have monetization? I remember, didn't you get demonetized or something? But because a lot of people got demonetized where they couldn't do the normal monetization anymore. I do have Buy Me a Coffee, but it's not really, it's not really getting much of anything on there. But you can reapply sometime in June. Oh, really? Yeah, I don't know, guys. I'd have to have a look at my monetization and see what it says. It's just bullshit, really. They should have, like, not done that. Like, they should have just What's going on with the subs? They're not really going up. Might restart the live soon, guys. I don't know. It's just going a bit slow in here. Let's see what it says. Oh, it's just got. Well, we've just hit 13.5k apparently. Right. So let's see. So we've got monetization, right? So we go to earn, and then we got, it says your channel isn't earning right now. After reviewing your channel using a combination of automated systems and human reviewers, we found that it does not follow YouTube's channel monetization policies. Our review found that your channel, so it says about inauthentic content. What do you mean inauthentic content? Well, it says here, content that appears mass-produced or repetitive to increase views without adding significant educational or other value. So, I mean, what do they mean? Like, that can be very, like, ambiguous, and shouldn't they have just, like, told you what videos are, you know, to basically to just get rid of the videos or something, instead of demonetizing? I don't really understand, like, why couldn't they have just said, hey, just delete these videos and then you'll be fine? But why do I have to then plead to YouTube to get remonetized? It's bullshit, isn't it? A scammer, really? You mean a spammer? I mean, maybe I was doing a lot of these shorts and I was, but it is what it is. Give the companies my government ID number. Alright. You have to give online poker websites your government ID number if you want to gamble online. I might have a chance of making a few bucks by playing online poker tournaments, but I don't want to give the companies my government ID number. Yeah, it's all about, just taking your data, isn't it? I think is what they're trying to do, isn't it? And then they can just sell your data on, isn't it? It all just feels very, yeah. Okay, thank you. Okay. It is what it is, though, isn't it, That's just what it is. Is everybody alright? We're on 85 likes, I think. Yeah. I don't know, but yeah, but with poker, it's like, I mean, that's risky, isn't it, right? I guess if you're good at poker, but like, there's always risks of doing that. I was talking about, like, a while ago about, like, matched betting and stuff like that, and using, I don't know if you can do that in your country, but over here, sometimes they offer, like, introductory offers where you can take advantage of it if you know what you're doing. And the good thing about it is it's all tax-free, apparently. Let's see what it says. Matched betting winnings tax-free. So it'll say it's 100% tax-free in the UK, as HM Revenue and Customs, HMRC, treats all gambling and betting profits as exempt from income tax. You do not need to declare your profits, nor do they count towards your personal allowance limits. So this could be seen as like a loophole. Yeah, this is what tournaments aren't much high risk because the buy-in fee is much lower than the potential prize money. So even when you lose, you don't lose that much. Oh, really? So even it's like, what's seen as, yeah, what's this? They look at risk. Numerous bookmaker transactions on your bank statements can trigger red flags during a mortgage check. even if you're making a profit, use a separate digital bank account for your betting funds to keep your primary statements clean. So that might be something to take into consideration, that mortgage lenders might see it as a red flag if you've got loads of betting, sort of like transactions come up. So by separating it out to a different account that you don't intend to use for mortgages, then that might be a way around it. And then what you could do in this country is put your winnings into a tax-free ISA. So you can put up to 20,000. I remember they were planning on bringing it down to 12,000, but going into this, you can, you can put in up to 20,000 a year. So yeah, so basically, what is the rates on cash ISAs and stuff like that? It does say that you can use stocks and shares ISAs, but apparently you can't use a regular savings account. Many professional gamblers use itemized deductions instead of the standard deduction on the tax forms. Explain more about that. Current inflation rate. At 2.8% apparently. That's not too bad, is it? Versus, let's say cash ISA. Right. So we're looking at around 4.3 to 4.75%. So it may actually be outpacing that without having to have tax, because the thing tax is, let's say you have 20% tax on, let's say you have a regular savings account, that might push it down to like just under 6%, might be like 5.5%. Potentially still be above inflation rate, but yeah, it's they will just squeeze every last bit out of you, won't they, But yeah, doing fine, thank you. I'm from the UK. What about yourself? Smash that like button, everyone. Itemized deductions, let the pro gambler declare more deductions as business expenses, e.g. travel, computer, for online gambling. Oh, really? Alright. I know some people have found ways around tax, for example, they'll use tax write-offs and stuff like that as a way to avoid having to pay tax. Or at least not as much. They could just use, say, a new piece of equipment. They might say, oh, my computer broke, I had to buy a new one. And then, they can just claim that as a tax write-off. So when it comes to the annual tax bill, they've only got a little bit to pay, maybe, unless you're a corporation, then you've got corporation taxes and stuff like that. But this government seems to be trying to throttle small businesses at the moment, and yeah. Now I'm from the UK. Internet connection could be deducted. You could get creative with declaring deductions to support your gambling profession. Oh yeah. Yeah, that's the thing, isn't it? Are you talking about if you do it, but then gambling, if you're a gambler, then that's seen as a non-taxable thing. But there are certain strategies that people use, like value betting and stuff, which I'm not a gambler. I don't do all that stuff. I'm not saying that people should, but sometimes people would find some like anomalies and things, and like they can exploit that, and over time potentially make more money than they lose by exploiting the errors and things like that, because sometimes you might see a rate that is a bit off. So I'll just try and get up the explanation so I can explain it a bit better. But I know someone that does like value betting and stuff like that, arbitrage betting and stuff like that. So value betting is an advanced gambling strategy where you place bets on outcomes that have a higher probability of happening than the bookmaker's odds suggest. Unlike matched betting, which eliminates risk by covering all outcomes, value betting involves active risk because you are deliberately exposing your capital to market inefficiencies to secure a long-term mathematical edge. Losses can be deducted too. What do you mean? And about losses being deducted from tax, considering it as a tax write-off because it's part of your expenses or something. Yeah. Or United States, so it's different there. But you could still say get around a lot of the tax though. But here in the UK, gambling is not seen as a taxable income or something, even if done through matched betting, which is arguably, I don't know if you've ever done that, but I'll just try and get up the explanation so I can explain it a bit better. But matched betting is a technique that uses mathematical equations to turn bookmaker-free bets and promotions into withdrawable cash. By covering every possible outcome of a sporting event, you eliminate the risk of gambling and secure a profit regardless of who wins. How it works, the core concept. Every matched bet requires you to place two separate wagers on the same event. The back bet, you bet on one outcome. You bet on an outcome to happen at a traditional bookmaker, e.g. England to win. The lay bet, you bet on that same outcome not to happen at a betting exchange like Betfair or Smarkets, e.g. England not to win, which covers a loss or a draw. Because you have covered all possible outcomes, your bets cancel each other out. You neither win nor lose any significant money on the match itself. Yeah, you've heard that before, yeah. Wouldn't trust the bookies to pay though. Well, shouldn't they have to if they've like agreed to that or something? Yeah, you got to be a bit careful, obviously, but apparently they cannot freeze your account, but like I've heard they can gub your account so they can restrict it if they see any like suspicious activity going on, but they cannot completely shut it down. In fact, let me type in, can bookies like shut your account down? Because I've been told that they cannot do that. But it says it can shut it down or restricts it at any time. They are private businesses, so terms and stuff like that. But I guess it depends on how you go about doing these things. And there's a thing called gubbing, where your account remains open, but you are permanently banned from receiving any free bets, bonuses, or promotions. The bookmaker limits the maximum amount of that you can wager on a bet, often reducing it to just a few pence, rendering the account useless. There are incidents of accounts being looted or frozen on Black Friday. Many players had their accounts plundered, and the ones that did get paid back got their money years later. Oh, really? Yeah, you got to be careful. But I've heard a lot of people have actually benefited from match betting if they know what they're doing. Yeah, what it says about what's it? How to avoid tracking software. But I heard there was actually a technique that you can use where you bet in the shop, then bet online at the same time. On both outcomes. So what you do is say, yeah, England to win or the other one to win. It says it's not recommended because you lose the speed and software advantages that make match betting profitable. In match betting circles, placing bets inside a physical shop is known as shop orbing or retail match betting. How it works in practice. So it says you find a promotional offer or a mispriced price on a betting shop's physical screen, place a cash or a card bet at the counter, and then immediately open your phone to place the opposing lay bet on an online exchange like Betfair exchange. I mean, isn't there some where you can like say two back bets, basically. But it's called Dutching, apparently. Instead of using a betting exchange, you place two or more back bets at different traditional bookmakers to cover the opposing outcomes of an event. So the strategy works best on events with only two possible outcomes, such as tennis matches, basketball games, or specific football markets like both teams to score or over under 2.5 goals. Oh, really? A poker scandal. Oh, wow. The setup, you find a tennis match where bookmaker A has inflated odds for player 1 and bookmaker B has inflated odds for player 2. The execution, you use a Dutching calculator to split your total stake across both bookmakers. No matter who wins the match, one of your bets wins and the other loses. The winnings from the successful bet cover the loss of the other, leaving you with a locked-in profit or a tiny qualifying loss. No exchange commissions. Betting exchanges charge a 2 to 5% commission on winning lay bets. Dutching removes the exchange entirely, meaning you keep 100% of the calculated payout. No exchange liability. When laying a bet on an exchange, you need a large bankroll to cover the liability. The amount you lose if your lay bet wins. With two back bets, you only risk the exact stake you put down. Otherwise, you'd win one bet and lose the other. So you either break even or win. I know what you're talking about, but I don't know the technical terms for it. Yeah, you have to be very careful with this stuff. Account longevity. Placing straightforward back bets on major market looks like completely normal gambling behavior, helping you blend in and avoid account restrictions. So this can be a way to avoid getting gubbed, as they call it, because if you're doing, say, like the yeah, but I don't know if that really makes sense. So it says placing straightforward back bets on major markets. But, I mean, you would only be doing back bets on, say, like, the major ones anyway, wouldn't you? I mean, you would use, like, so you would be doing, say, like, Hang on. I'm getting a bit confused, really, but as to how it would all kind of work, but I'm trying to think of like how it would work in practice. So it says the drawbacks and risks. No draws allowed. You cannot safely use 2 back bets on a standard football match because a draw will cause both of your bets to lose. For 3-way markets, you would need to place 3 back bets 3-way Dutch-in. Price changes. You have to place 2 separate online bets. If bookmaker A accepts your bet, but bookmaker B changes their odds before you can hit submit, your math will fail and you could face a loss. Palpable errors. If one bookmaker cancels your bet due to an obvious pricing mistake, you are left with a single highly exposed gamble on the other bookmaker. So there is certain things you have to really kind of look out for, and that's why I'm a bit reluctant to do this kind of stuff, because you would have to really be careful before doing that kind of stuff. Because you got to think about, well, what if the draw, you know, it can happen, right? One bookie might have a 10-point spread and another might have an even spread. If you bet on an underdog with the bookie that has the spread and bet on the favourite with the bookie that has... Hang on a sec. Thank you for the 87 likes, everybody. Much appreciated. I'm probably going to restart the live in a sec. There's not much people coming through now, so yeah. So I think I'm going to start up a new one, guys. So yeah, thank you for hanging around. I will be back in a sec. Hang on, I'll just see what it says. Even spread, you'd win your bets if the favourite wins by less than 10 points. Otherwise, you'd win one bet and lose the other, so you'd break even. Oh, really? Yeah, there's ways of... I think there's a lot of ways around it, and I'm just thinking like how you would avoid getting gubbed with this kind of strategy that I was talking about, like wouldn't they notice? Yeah. Won't they notice you only using free bets? For every one promotional or free bet you place, aim to place at least 2 or 3 standard unpromoted bets. What's this? The mug roll. Put a £5 cash bet on a high-profile Saturday Premier League accumulator. Accumulators are highly profitable for bookmakers. So placing one makes you look exactly like the casual losing punter they want to keep. Hello, Kenpachi. Hello, Dave. How you doing? Good means restricted. When your account gets restricted. Dave, yeah. How's it going, everyone? Unlike standard matched betting, where you use one bookmaker and one exchange, Dutch-in requires you to actively rotate across multiple traditional bookies to find the best odds and avoid detection. And it says here, use odds matching software. Manually checking every site takes too long. Use a Dutching tool like Outplayed or Profit Accumulator to instantly scan which combination of bookmakers currently offers the highest mathematical return on an event. Match the markets. Always ensure you are betting on the exact same market. For example, if you place bet 1 on over 2.5 goals, a bookmaker A makes sure bet 2 at bookmaker B is strictly under 2.5 goals, rather than a confusing worded alternative market. Vary the pairings. Do not constantly use the same 2 bookmakers, e.g. always pairing Bet365 with Sky Bet. Mixed up your selections across 10 to 15 different accounts, so your betting trail looks random and natural to their algorithms. Hey, Thomas. Okay. Hi, Mohammed. How you doing? Open tabs and log in first. Before placing any money, open both bookmaker tabs, log into your accounts and load the specific match slips. Check the maximum stakes. Bookmakers have different maximum stake limits. Always input your desired amount into the bet slip to check if the bookie will accept the full stake before hitting place bet on either site. Place the highest risk bet first. If one of the bookmakers is notorious for slashing odds quickly or limiting stakes, place that bet first. Once that side is locked in, immediately switch to the more stable bookmaker to place the second bet. This is just a bit kind of, it just gets a bit complicated, really. I don't use that because I have to get, oh yeah, that's what you were saying about government ID and all that, and it's a bit shit, isn't it, that they're doing that? Yeah. It's just making things kind of inconvenient for people, really, isn't it, you know? Right, I'm gonna restart the live, I guess. I'll see you in a sec. Thank you for watching. I'll be back soon.